Assalamu alaikum students. I'm Mir Wajid Ali, your head of department. Today we are going to discuss about the assignment brief for Unit 1 Programming of Higher Nationals Program in Computing. So the purpose of this recording is to give you an insight about how you are going to attempt this assignment brief and how you can achieve the highest grades, inshallah. To start with, please do give attention to what is being asked in this submission format. This is very critical and very, very important. So to start with, the submission is in the form of an individual written report having 4 sections covering activity 1 till activity 4. This report should be written in a concise formal business style using single spacing and font size of 12. So please make sure that you have these 4 sections defined for each activity and you are using the same font size of 12. You can use any font type, but preferably it should be either Arial, Time New Roman, Cambria, or anything. Even you can use Calibri, but Calibri is a bit narrowed one, so normally it is not recommended, but still you can use it. You are required to make use of headings, paragraphs, and subsections as appropriate, and all work must be supported with research and referenced using the Harvard referencing system. Okay, so this is very important. You need to follow proper formatting. You need to make use of the headings, like all your text should be justified. Use proper headings. For the main ones, it should be heading 1. The subsequent ones should be heading 2, 3, and 4, and so on, whichever level you require to be. So that is it. Then, of course, everything that you write, it must be referenced, because at this level you are not someone who can propose or who can say that this is my own statement or my own knowledge base. You are getting knowledge from somewhere, so you have to give proper credit by citing that text, by citing that resource in your work, and for that you will use the APA format, which will be Harvard referencing style. Okay, so you will use that. You are also advised to apply page numbering. Please also provide a bibliography using Harvard referencing style. Yes, of course, at the end of your report, there has to be a bibliography section. Like here, I also like to educate you here that there are 2 types of sections. Like one is bibliography and the other one is the references. So what is the difference between bibliography and reference? Bibliography is something like all the resources that you have consulted while working on your assignment. It will all be covered regardless you have utilized them, you utilize that information in your work or not, but you will reference it, like you will mention it in your bibliography. But when you use references, you will only reference or you will only quote those references that you have used in your work. Okay, so this is the difference. So normally bibliography is far larger than references. Okay. Um, Again, yes, you have to use the page numbering at the bottom of your pages. Then is also you are highly recommended to use illustrations and code snippets in your document and cross-reference them in your report. So now this is very important. Do make use of your assigned like illustrations, images, but they should be relevant. Okay, it is not necessary that you simply put the logo of some programming language there. Okay, that is not important, but there has to be some relevance to your work, because you have to cross references. Cross referencing your images is like or images or tables is like as you have been seeing in your books or like in the articles and stuff, that yeah. So in your articles and stuff that you can see that as shown in figure 1 or as shown in table 1. So that is called the cross-referencing of the images and tables. So you will use that, and for that you will find the option in the references tab of your Microsoft Word. Okay, and then is the recommended word limit is 3,000 to 5,000 words. Now, this is very important because normally what we come across is like 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, even 20,000 words, and like 40 pages, 50 pages. This is not the way, this is not the requirement. Although you're not going to be penalized for it, but it should not be exceeded that much. Like 5,000 is the limit. You may go up to 6,000 or maybe 7,000, but it should not be like 20,000, 15,000. No, it should not be like that. Okay, because you have to write as much as you will write. You will give, there will be a high level, higher chances of errors in that. So you have to avoid that. Then is the sequence of the report format. First of all, you will like make it your habit, make it your make it a common practice that you will use a proper cover sheet. Okay, draft one cover sheet for yourself and use it across all your assignment briefs. Okay, so the cover sheet must have your name, assignment title, your unit name, assignment title, your name, college's registration number, assessor's name, and submission date. This information should be there. Then table of content, of course, if you will follow a proper heading structure in your report, it will be just a matter of a couple of clicks and your table of content will be automatically generated. You can seek guidance from your program coordinators in your respective campuses. They will guide you. Similarly, list of figures and list of tables. Okay, so if you are using and you should and you must use illustrations and tables in your report where required, so you need to develop a list like similar type of table of content. You need to develop a list of figures and list of tables. Okay, then is section 1, the page having activity number name. Okay, so section 1 will be activity name. You can have a single page and there you will put the name of the activity which will be coming afterwards. Then afterwards it will you will place the evidence for your section 1, then section 2, then again its evidence, then section 3 and its evidence. Sorry, there is a typo error here. Oh, in fact, it is a duplication here. So section 3, then section 4, and finally the bibliography or reference table. Okay, you are required to submit your work for plagiarism checking. No work will be considered if it contains plagiarism more than acceptable level defined as per TMUC plagiarism policy. So now understand one thing. When you will submit your work, it will go for plagiarism check, and plagiarism and similarity are two different things. Okay. Similarity, when you put your work, when your work will go through Turnitin, Turnitin will generate two reports now. One will be for similarity check. It will check your content against the available content over the internet and the other research articles and stuff which has already been submitted to Turnitin. So they will check it against that work, and if there is a high level of similarity found, like more than 20%, it will not be considered. It will be discarded. Okay, and you will not pass that module. That assignment will not pass. Okay, so it has to be up to 20%. Okay, or you can say up to 25% as long as it is in the green color. Okay, so it has to be within the limits. That is for similarity. Similarly, AI is not acceptable. Okay, but again for that there is also a limit of 20%. It should not exceed 20%. Although I totally discourage you using the content directly copied and pasted from the AI tools and you put them in your report, that is highly discouraged. Okay, you should not do that. You should use the AI tools to facilitate you, to make you learn things, but it should not be something that you are using to generate your own evidences. That is not the way. That is that will be counted as a plagiarism. Okay. So now coming to the point where what is plagiarism? Plagiarism is something that you are generating or you are adding to your report, and that is something which was required as an evidence, and yet you are not. It is not your own work. Either you are copying it from someone else without giving a citation to it, or you are generating it from AI, and you have no contribution in developing that evidence, so it will be considered as plagiarism, and there is zero tolerance for plagiarism. So if that is the case, like if your main work, main evidence, required evidence is plagiarized, the whole assignment will be considered as plagiarism or plagiarized. Sorry. Okay. So you need to be very, very, very careful about that. Okay. Now coming to learning outcomes. These are the 4 learning outcomes which will be covered in this assignment brief. So now, sorry when I get these pauses in between, just think that my screen got in a standby mode, so that is why. So I just needed to resume it. Anyway, so coming to assignment brief and guidance. InnovaTech, a leading IT company, has announced its recruitment drive for entry-level positions. The company will assess interested candidates on the basis of their work solutions, and will then shortlist for interview. You, being a potential candidate, will develop a work solution in this regard alongside its documentation. So, the first activity is going to be the programming process. So, the heading for your section 1 will be programming process. Okay. So, for this activity, in this section, you will provide information regarding the following: algorithms, their usage, and the conversion process towards pseudocode, and finally leading to application programming code. So here you need to understand one thing, that you are required to define algorithms first. You need to give a proper heading. Again, just relate this section, this highlighted section, okay, this highlighted section with this P1, okay. Link this activity task with this grading criteria. Define an algorithm and outline the process in building an application. So this activity is targeting this, this P1 criteria. So you need to define an algorithm. So when you define an algorithm, means you need to give a definition of an algorithm. And when you are giving a definition of an algorithm, you need to provide a proper reference. It has to be reputed, it has to be authentic, and it has to be coming from some reputed source. Okay. Then, with the help of again, yes, after defining the algorithm, then you will define the process, how the conversion takes place, like how, based on the algorithm, how you write an algorithm. You can take an example of say bubble sort, maybe, or some sorting, some other like searching algorithm or anything. Okay, so you will take an example, you will put that example in the algorithm form, then from there you will convert it towards pseudocode, and finally towards how you will convert it to a programming code. Okay. Second is, with the help of application code, you may write your own code. You may write your own code. Determine the key steps involved from writing a program to its execution, highlighting the role of compiler, interpreter, and linker. You may also include the challenges that may be faced while writing the application code. Okay, so coming to this P2, determine the steps taken from writing code to execution. So this part, it is covering that. Okay, this part is covering P2. So you need to explain this. You need to properly explain this. Okay. Then coming to this M1 and D1, analyze the process of writing code, including the potential challenges faced, and evaluate the implementation of an algorithm in a suitable language, evaluate the relationship between the written algorithm and the code variant. Okay, now since this is the first video I'm making for you guys for the assignment brief, so there are a few things which are coming to my mind, and I'm thinking to develop another video in which I will tell you how to attempt the assignments as a in general. Okay, so but since this video is currently active, so I will cover this as well. So while you are attempting your work, you need to make sure that you start from the top down. Like you will read the D criteria first, because D criteria is something which is a wholesome, which is wholly completing, covering the merit criteria and eventually the passing criteria. Okay, so here if you read the distinction criteria D1, evaluate the implementation of an algorithm in a suitable language, evaluate the relationship between the written algorithm and the code variant. So if you think in a broad sense, broad way, uh, this distinction criteria, it is asking you to write an algorithm, then it is asking you to implement that algorithm. So when you will implementing it, definitely you will generate a pseudocode for it, and then eventually you will be writing a formal code for it using a suitable language, whether it can be C++, Java, Python, anything. Okay, and then evaluate the relationship between the written algorithm and the code variant. Then you will analyze, like you will evaluate the difference between the written code and its algorithm which was actually given to you or you had drafted at the first place. So you will analyze that. Okay, so if you are targeting this D1 criteria, you will be automatically covering this merit one as well. Like what it is saying, analyze the process of writing code, including the potential challenges faced. When you will be writing, when you will be writing the code, sorry, when you will be writing the code in some programming language, there must be some challenges. So the M1 criteria is basically covering that. Okay, it is covering that, like the challenges that you are facing while writing the code. This is what, oh, okay, so this is what being asked in the merit M1 criteria. And similarly from M1 you will go back towards P1 and P2, define the algorithm and outline the process in building an application, determine the steps taken from writing code to execution. This all is covered. Like these are the minor things, these are the main things which are being required. But the M1 criteria is building upon these P1 and P2, and similarly D1 is building upon P1, P2, and M1. Okay, so I hope you are getting the point here. So again and again, like I usually come to. Okay, I'll discuss this part in the other video. So, okay. So coming to highlight the role of compiler, interpreter, and linker. Of course, when you are executing the code, it will be coming under the compilers. Like if you're using C++, there has to be a compiler. If you are using, say, PHP or any other like BASIC or any other obsolete languages, or of course the PHP is not that much obsolete at the moment, so PHP is something which uses an interpreter all the time, and linkers. So what is their purpose, how they work, and all blah blah blah. You may also include any challenges that may be faced while writing the application code. Again, this particular line is what it's targeting the M1. Okay, so D1, M1, P1, P2 all are covered in these two activities, and you are not going to develop the evidence based on evidence for P1, evidence for P2, evidence for M1, evidence for D1. No, you're not going to do that. Basically, you are going to make one piece of work which will be covering the D1, the M1, the P1, and the P2. Okay, it will be covering everything at one in one place, rather than you are making multiple headings like P1, P2, M1, D1, 4. So you will be making four separate headings for that. Totally wrong approach. Okay, now coming to I hope you are clear about what you are required to produce in under activity 1 and how you are going to relate it with the P1, P2, M1, and D1. Okay, you have to make sure that the requirements falling under the P1 and P2 are fully met, because if there is a minute detail is missing in and this P1 or P2 is not met, then I'm sorry, but you have not passed your assignment. Okay, so you need to make sure that your P1 and P2 are being fully addressed. Okay, definitely you will address PM1 and D1, like you will be working from top down approach, so you will be covering everything, but you have to uh, primarily focus on that you make sure that P1 and P2 have been met. Coming to activity 2, programming paradigms. Now you will create a section in your report the for section 2, and that will be termed as programming paradigms, and then you will start the um, evidence. In this section, you will provide information regarding the following. Refer to your knowledge regarding the three programming paradigms. Like your tutors, tutors will be teaching you about the three paradigms: the object-oriented, event-driven, and procedural. Given a detailed explanation about the three and support your evidence with examples and illustrations. It is very important. This, like, check this, P3. Discuss what procedural, object-oriented, and event-driven paradigms are, their characteristics and the relationship between them. So you need to address this one, this activity, and you have to give examples and illustrations. Okay, you need to support your evidence with illustrations and examples. Okay, you have to. Then you may also include a comparison and a critical evaluation of the three based on the sample application code provided as Extra A. Now, compare the procedural, object-oriented, and event-driven, blah, 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 blah. Critically evaluate the source code. So you are given, okay, so your teacher will be giving you a code at the end that will be having this sample code that will be covering your all three types, and then you will relate them. Okay, coming to the third part is implementation. Okay, let me put some more insight to this. Here, first of all, you will define the three paradigms, what they are, what are their characteristics, how they work. Okay, you will give their example, you will place some examples there, you will use some flow diagrams that will define how these paradigms work in their own way. So you will not put some image, some irrelevant image. You will, if I were you, I would go for like um, some flow diagram for the OOP. Okay, object oriented, I would go for the flow chart for the OOP. Similarly for I can use some flow diagram for procedural or event driven. Okay, so you can use that, and again you need to properly cross reference them. Okay, then under this part you will definitely be given the code, and you will analyze that code, like what is the difference between the code. Like for example, I'm not the expert here at the moment, but for example, in the object oriented, you will be finding a section which will be a class, which will be a class. code, a class code, and that class will be called within the code um, in the main event, mainstream. So uh, that is how it will work. Like you are calling the class somewhere within your code. Okay. And for event driven, there has to be some event like on click or on load or maybe on type or anything like that. So anything falling within that event, it will be covered when that event will be called. So like that. So you will be analyzing that and you will give your comments on that. Okay, coming to activity 3, implementation of algorithms. Again, the third section, where it will be a separate section. You will develop a section in your report and will include the screenshots of your evidence along with a formal brief description. Your evidence will comprise of the following information. You will code your selected algorithm into a program using an IDE of your own choice and may try to explain the IDE features that helped in managing the process. Like for example, if I were you, normally when we started programming, we did not have very fancy IDEs at that time, back in 90s and early 2000. Um, Again, yes, we did have some tools, but still we were used to use Notepad. Notepad was our editor, and we were used to code in Notepad. And of course, you must have heard the tool named Notepad Plus Plus. It came later, and it was a blessing in disguise for us because it was enabling us to differentiate between the code part, the system code part, and the code part which we were like the user part. So it was giving us the color coding for that. So in Notepad, those days we were used to code in Notepad, and it was like a pain for us whenever we were used to encounter any error in the code. Debugging was way too difficult at that time. Like when you are writing the code in a text editor, and you are running it in the compile through the compiler, and it is generating the error. It is very painful to debug that such application. But we were used to do it. But now with IDEs available, you can like even while writing the code, you are being notified about the errors within the code. So that is the benefit of using IDEs these days. Okay. So definitely, you may cover that part because that part will be targeting what it will be enhance the algorithm written. Oh, okay. So evaluate the use of an IDE for the development of application contrasted with non using not using an IDE. Of course, I have given you the example. Without seeing the D3 criteria, I have given you the example that there is quite a difference between using an IDE and not using an IDE. Like Notepad is one example of non-IDE environment, and say Notepad plus plus is sort of an IDE because it highlights a lot of things. It is not a proper debugger. It does not have a proper debugger in it, but mostly it works for the entry-level programs like C++ and stuff. And similarly, VS Code is there, and other tools are there that can be used with proper debuggers, which will not only help you identify the errors, but will also allow you to rectify them in the runtime. Okay, Ji. So you may also include the challenges that you may faced if not having used an IDE, if not have used an IDE. Okay, so we already discussed that part. So write in a program. Again, this part you are covering in the first task. Enhance the algorithm written using the features of the IDE. Of course, when you will be using the debugger, or you will be using the breakpoints within your IDE, then definitely you will be enhancing them. And of course, you need to document them, that how you enhanced your work, like how the IDE facilitated you. Sometime even when you start writing the code, it gives you the hints. For example, like it facilitates you, it provides you with the attributes within the objects. Like for example, if you're creating a list box, the drop down list box. So when you will say combo one dot, so it will give you a list of attributes within that object, and say you select combo one dot text. So it will get or value. So it will give you the value within that combo box. Okay, so that is how it works. Coming to the last activity, debugging and coding standard. You will develop another section in your report comprising of information regarding the following: an explanation of debugging features available in the IDEs and how they facilitate the development process for developing secure and robust applications. Okay, again, yes, when you will be developing, when you will be working on your LO3, you will be getting the evidences for your level 4. Okay, so when it is not possible that while you are writing a code on your own, you will not come like you will not encounter any errors while developing it. Okay, so the coding standard being followed in your code. Okay, now coming to the coding standards. What are the coding standards? Like it is like something, the recipe that you follow. We have the main dish, everyone make that dish, but everyone has a different recipe for it. So the coding standards being followed are is something like that. Like for example, one approach is like whenever we write, like I personally, whenever I write a code, uh, I label it like this. Like if I'm declaring a variable which is going to manage the integers, and the it is ID. Its name is ID, and it is going to hold the value in integer format. So when I will be declaring that variable, I will write it as int int ID. I'll name it as int ID. So whenever or wherever I will access it, I will know that I am going to hold the integer value within this variable, and its title is ID. Okay, so that is my approach. Someone may use simply ID, or someone may use something else. Someone may write int ID in all small letters. Someone may write it in all caps format, or someone may write int in small and ID in caps, which I do. We call it camel hump. Okay, the first letter of the main character will be caps. Okay, so this is it for now. Yes. So just remember one thing, like if you are attempting this assignment, your code will not go, like your whole work will not go beyond 5,000 or 6,000 words. You do not require to give excessive information about things. You need to be to the point, not very specific, but give some detail to it. It has to be in proper depth and in proper breadth. Okay, but it should not be excessive. I hope this works for you. Thank you very much.